how quickly some of the software just becomes redundant.
Mm.
Like if you look at Speckle,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
or like is Flux in that list?
No, it's not. No. Oh, is it? No, it's not.
No. So like Speckle's just like an open source version of Flux, which um, basically like its main function was to try and transfer information from Rhino or Grasshopper to Revit. That was its primary function. They usually these programs they'll try and do other things, but there'll be like a core function that it starts with, and all it takes is a few switches on another from another company or another software to do it better, and it just becomes useless.
Yeah, and I think that's the challenge for a lot of companies. If you really get a very, very good idea for like Speckle,
Yeah,
when they started, it was just everybody, wow, that's great. And then people understood what it is that enables Speckle and say, well,
yeah, that's exactly like I never got into Speckle because I could just do it myself.
mm.
Um,
So which
yeah,
is even
and it's
to do that.
the thing is a lot of the thought processing that goes into like being a computational designer isn't necessarily the same. Uh, it's not the same requirements to actually make something like a user friendly process to install on people's computers. And as well,
Mm.
I believe that there's like a real problem with our user friendly tools that they they fail almost immediately once something goes beyond the boundaries of their requirements. So for you can just use Revit as an example. Revit's if you look at Revit versus Rhino, Revit's even though it's not user friendly, it's meant to be like architecture friendly. It's focused on architecture, and you have to use it to whatever Autodesk has decided architecture is. But the instant your architecture goes beyond the scope of what Revit considers as architecture, it doesn't work. And so there's quite restricting factors in all of this, and I think one of the major ones is that people just don't understand computers still.
Mm.
And so if you can understand a computer, then it doesn't matter what tools are available to you. You should be able to work with the tools that you need to get your outcome. So
I think another challenge is also architecture?
No, but I can answer the question.
Oh, yes, enjoy it.
There's basically there's quite a lot of stuff that we use which has GNU or open source style copyright clauses on them that basically say that the actual software can't be sold if that particular open source thing is being used, then it can't be sold as a piece of software. Um, there are other examples of this, like if you have a website that has .org at the end, then the website that you're using can't sell a product. It has to be like an open source style product. So, like I think Blender is distributed on a .org website domain. Um, that doesn't mean you can't make money from the thing that you've written. So, like you mentioned, if you've got a web service and it is using open source or someone else's code, there is an issue with using other people's code that hasn't been distributed to share. You are in effect stealing. Um, so it has to, like, let's say you're not stealing that stuff, then rather than asking for funds for the code, what you're actually asking for funds for is how that code has been put together. That's that intellectual property that you're actually selling, and the fact that it's hosted. You know, the delivery of the actual information can be paid for.
Right. So, oh, I see. So like Hank said, you can't sell the product, but you can sell the service alongside it. So I can help
Yeah.
this person do this work for blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So,
Look. There is a like Python's open source, right? You wouldn't reasonably say that you should be able. Someone should ask like sell you Python. But I use a website called Python Anywhere that lets me run Python on a server, um, as long as I've got an internet connection. I'm paying for the server, not Python.
right. Okay. But then when you guys were talking about how companies keep replacing each other, then someone could just spend this time and money working on a certain like idea, and then someone else can just come along and just package it as a service.
Yeah, like for example, the CSS stuff that we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could.
So is it worth?
But like, I can't. The thing is, I can't reasonably patent CSS for architecture. I could try, but I think I would fail miserably
Mm.
because it's just an idea that has been already developed for other design means. It's something that's just so open source and free. It's a free idea out there that it would be like trying to ask people to patent using code to do architecture, right?
Mm.
So that that's not how you end up making money with these business models. You make money by providing advice or providing like the actual hosting of the service, and there are some sneaky loopholes that you can get through, but it's what I've seen certain people lie to clients, stating that, for example, Unreal Engine is like they've made it their own engine, but there's clearly a lie, right?
Right.
You want to avoid doing stuff like that.
Yeah. It gets quite
Yeah.
complicated.
Well, and also most
Like,
Yeah.
there are probably architects out there that can design stadiums, but they never will because a client doesn't trust that they can do it, and the architects that the engineers that they team up with don't want to team up with them. It's just too big a risk, and hence why I don't think the Starchitect is ever going to get like a new Starchitect's never going to get the opportunity like they did back in the 60s and 70s to work on buildings that just without any experience, basically.
Yeah. It's the same for transport. There's
Hello. Um, I was going to start off by talking about the next assignment, but it sounds like a few people have got some issues with their scripts for assignment one. Do you want to look through them now, troubleshoot them?
Should I go first or?
Sure.
Alright. Let me see here. Try and get it up. Alright. That should be it. Can you see that?
I can.
Alright. Yeah. So I guess I was just trying to replicate that null script here.
Is it?
Sorry.
What do you mean by replicate? The one that turns.
It wasn't here. It's not up here.
You didn't get it. I didn't give it to you.
Yeah, I think the version is like a different version.
Okay. Okay.
Supposedly Amelia's one is working. However,
Yeah,
it wasn't working for me.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't work on yours for some reason. I don't know why. You had the exact same one, exact same code, exact same setup and everything. It just doesn't work at all for yours.
Sure. Really?
Well, this is the one that he just had, like, he had the null and it just had put an empty in each of these, and then that didn't work, so I just started writing my own. Trying to like append the list and stuff.
Yeah. So
it was still separated.
So don't. So number one, just to explain what's happening, when Rhino Inside's Grasshopper component that reads parameters runs, and it returns a null. The null that it returns is like a different type of null to the null understood by Grasshopper. So if you want to, like, if there's parts of the script that ignore it, or parts of the scripts that break because they need a certain type of object, like a string, and they ignore nulls, then that null will break the script.
Yep.
The way to write a null in Python is just to write none with a capital N. So rather than using a equals null and referring back to that input, you can instead just type none.
So in this one?
Yep.
None.
with a capital N,
The capital N. Sorry, yeah.
and it should turn a certain color. Did you type none?
Wait, no, oh, none with a capital N.
Yeah. See how it's turned blue? So that's
Yeah.
that's now an empty object. It's a special type of Python object, and that's what is understood as a null. So what are we doing if x? So okay, the way that I've written mine, the reason why this doesn't work, okay, let's troubleshoot it together. Quickly, if you flatten that list of text, like as in go get a flatten component, don't do that. And then get a list item. We want to, no, plug it in first. So before we use the list item, can we just check what index that null is?
Which one, sorry?
Plug the flattened tree into a panel. Okay, we want to get index 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now let's just plug that into your Python component.
Yep.
Let's see, like, what is that object according to Python? Do you remember? So what, just to throw to the rest of the class, like, if we want to look at that null and actually know what it is, what are some functions in Python that we can use to debug it?
Do you mean like printing it or?
Yeah, so if you print it, what's it going to say?
What it is, hopefully, or
Well-
like what it's pulling, I guess.
Well,
Right?
let's try it. Do it. Can you do it before you run your code? We want to print x, at the beginning. So if we just print x, what do we get? None, right? So that looks like it's running okay. So
But
if
this none is like, what's this none? Because I think it was empty when I last checked on. Like,
yeah,
It was just, is
well,
that the same or?
well, none is none. Like, what is it? That's a string, right? As in,
Yeah.
that's printing a string that it is representing an object.
So I'd
So
have to
let's just double
format.
check. No, let's just double check. What else is it?
Can you do like type?
Yeah, that's it. So can we also print, like add a comma to the print and do a type X to see what it is?
Sorry, what would I have to add?
Type,
Type. I'm not sure what that one is.
it's a function.
Is that the
It needs an argument.
and then like this?
Copy it.
Yep.
Oops,
Yep. So it's the argument is the object, and now you've perfect. Run that.
All right, sweet. None type.
Okay, so it's coming out as a none type, and everything's working. Well, it's like it should be working the way we think it should. So let's just quickly see if the if and else is running. Can we also put a print per sub function to just see if they're running the way we think they should? So technically, we should. Well, no, let's put something different than the same thing. So let's print a string that says else, and let's print a string that says like, or false, and let's print true.
Okay, so
So we want that one to be true. Perfect. Cool. So
false.
it's running false.
Yep.
I think I know what you've done wrong. See your A.
Mm-hmm.
What is your A output doing right now? In Grasshopper.
Well, this is the part where I think your approach is different.
No.
Because the way.
Just
oh,
stop.
Sorry.
Look at your A output in Grasshopper.
A isn't we're not printing A.
No, look at A.
Yeah.
Look at the panel A is connected to in Grasshopper.
It's the output.
What is it? Is it A or is it something else? What does that look like? That panel. What does it look like? It's representing
The output
the
Right.
output of what?
of this output.
Yeah, it's the print. It's not.
So I should have separated.
No, no. What's happened is I think you've renamed your out. You know, if you just create a new Python component.
Yeah.
See that out?
Mm-hmm.
Out is what's being printed. It's not the result of A. And I think you might have retyped A into out, and out is a special type of output for the Python component. So if you copy this code into that new component,
I've got it up here. This was the original one.
right? Nice to give Emilio credit in that code,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now don't do anything to out or A. Can we get rid of null, please? Make that none again. Cool. So if you plug that in, the item into X, yeah, what's the output of A? Yep,
I'll just grab this. Null.
right. And do you see? You've probably just renamed out.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, this one, the one that I was given, just had that. So.
Yeah, so if you want to get rid of out, so go back to your Python component, right click the component. No, right click the symbol, and then see the show output out parameter. If you select that hides out.
Oh, so that was like actually hidden for the other one.
Well,
Maybe.
it might have been.
Sure. Nope.
Right. So see
Well,
your
A was
A
out anyways.
your A
yeah.
was out, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Do you get what happened?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that's just a bit weird because it's like, yeah, I always think like the out was. This is like its own thing, basically. And,
Yes,
like,
it's
I
a
always
special
think-
output.
Yeah.
It's the print function.
Because if you change, I thought if you changed it, it would result in only that one being printed out, not like the actual out function.
Yes. Oh, good. Does that help? It's a weird problem, but
So if I do this, so the null is fine, or
yeah, you
that's
want the
what you
null.
wanted?
Yeah, you want the null.
Because your one said empty, and I mean I guess this is the same as if I place empty in here or something, but if we like wrote it to say empty, but yeah, okay, that's basically where I needed to get it to.
Yep.
All right. Thanks.
Cool. Sean, you said that you had an issue.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, wait, let me share my screen. Is it shared?
No. Yep. It's starting. Cool. Yep.
Alright, okay, so I wrote the CSS to try and change the floor. I mean, change the name of the room, like just a simple one, like if it's unit, change it to ground bedroom, and if the room number is more than 38, change it to level 1 bedroom,
Yeah.
because I just duplicated and made like a second floor.
Sure.
But for some reason, it doesn't work when I plug it in.
Okay. Let's see what it's doing.
So I plugged it in, and then there's like an error somewhere here. Let me move this down.
Okay. Well. Is there a new name? Like, is there any changes? Like the CSS is running properly, or do you have any rooms
I think
called?
it's running here.
Do you have any
Is that-
rooms called unit?
Yeah, all of these rooms are unit.
Right. So if we go back to the CSS,
Yeah.
let's just double check the CSS. So you've said data name equals unit.
Yep.
Right. Sorry, there's just a little bit of a confusing thing that I can see. See,
Yeah.
if we're running left to right, so the string starts data and then name,
Yeah.
and then there's a quote after the square bracket.
Oh, this one.
That to me reads as if there's going to be a bit of a problem, because what that means is your search, you've got
Yeah.
search and then a list, and then you've got a quote. That means you're starting a string, and then your string starts data with the name, and then your string ends. That quote, double quote mark says that's the end of my string. So that's the first string in the list that you're writing, and then the rest of your code's written. That double quote mark shouldn't be there, and I also think it shouldn't be the second to last one. The one just after unit should also not be there.
Okay. But you think it'll work if this is gone?
Well, maybe. That's at least one of the reasons why it's not working.
Yeah, I think it's still not working.
Yeah, but hang on. So we've got a room on the right there that's called unit.
Yeah.
Like you can see on the right, on line 27.
Yep.
Can we expand the panel a bit? Can we see if there's a new name getting made? Right. So we scroll back in. Can we go back to the, yeah. So data name equals unit. You've also got a square bracket. See the square bracket in between the quote and the double quote after unit.
There. Oh, here.
Yeah.
Oh, oops.
Yeah. Okay, that's probably still not running, but it might be because this whole dictionary is so okay. If you just copy this whole text, copy all the text. I can see a few problems with it, but if you copy all of it, go to your web browser,
Sure.
like Chrome
Yeah.
or Firefox or whatever.
Yep.
Can you
Yep.
bring it into this screen?
Yep.
And just search. No, don't paste. Just search JSON validate. So yeah, go JSON online validator and formatter. By the way, there's a whole bunch of programs that do this already. Like Sublime Text can do it with some package managers, and VS Code can do it. But if you just open just pick one of them. Pick the top one.
Yeah, it's loading.
Okay.
Oh, also, I added where's the grasshopper? Because at first there wasn't like a number in here, like because I wanted to use the one number, so I had to add it at the front as well.
Sure. Yep.
One number to
That's
be there.
fine. Let's go back.
Yeah, should I
So
paste it in?
just paste.
Yep.
And then hit validate. Down bottom left. So look, there's an error. And it's highlighted the line that there's an error. What do you think is the problem? Or does anyone else have a suggestion?
Expecting end of function. one of this isn't supposed to be here.
No, they're meant to be there. You're missing something.
Is it? Because I know like \n is for like Python.
Is it just a bracket?
No, it's not a bracket. Can you?
Is it a comma?
It is a comma. Yep.
Oh, here.
And yeah,
Then do I need one here as well?
you do. Try that. You can just hit validate. No, just hit validate again.
Alright.
Okay. What else? What else have we got that's wrong?
E-
You know the square bracket we deleted?
Yeah.
It was meant to be on the right hand
Let's go this
side of the
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's meant to be there.
Oh, and this one as well.
No, hang on.
No? Is it missing here?
Just hit delete.
Delete here.
Yeah. Because that's part of that line. You've got it. Look, you've got a quote at the end after the comma, but that's for the update. Yeah, just try validate it again. Just try validate, see what it does. What's going? Oh, you've got a quote mark after the square bracket. Yeah,
Okay. We didn't. Do I need one?
you do need one there. Yep. Try now. Try validate. What's going on? But this one, that looks all right. What is it saying? Expecting string number null, blah, 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 blah. Search. Just go, can you delete so that it goes up to the new line?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, get rid of those tabs between unit and then hit a space.
Here.
Yeah. That looks right. Data name, blah, 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 blah. Search string. It's a list with a string. Just try validate. What are you complaining about?
It says expecting string.
Yeah. It is a string.
Yeah.
It looks alright.
Should I just paste it back in?
Hold on. Yeah, but just copy it back in.
Oh, the format's messed up now.
Yeah. Hang on, just go back to the website.
Yeah.
See can you just delete, just copy it, like see there's like a curly bracket above the search on line
This one?
13.
The,
Copy line 13 up.
copy it up.
Yeah, all the way up. Select all the way up to line
Oh,
0
right.
to line 1. Copy that.
Yeah.
Go back to Grasshopper. Let's just see if this runs. Paste that in. We want to delete that comma and put a square bracket. Yeah. Let's just see. Does that work? So if we look on the right,
I think it does work.
yeah. So that's named all your units now something.
Yeah, it's gone to ground bedrock.
Right. Okay. So now if we just jump back into that web page,
Yep.
can you delete everything from line 13? Actually line 14 up to line 2.
Like this.
Yeah, delete. Cool. Now let's validate. Can you just quickly cut cut from data up to 38. Like, yep. And now run it. Validate. Expecting string got undefined. Interesting. Can you rewrite that as just square brackets? Just
without the quote marks?
yeah. That's really strange. Don't you think? Like, it's-
Yeah.
just delete. Can you delete all of search? Delete all of line 2,
Sure.
and now validate. Right. Okay. I think so. If you see just undo. Can we undo what we just did? Does it work? See I think it's just the way it's been formatted. There's a quote mark. If you see the quote mark, yeah, just delete on the right of it, or just delete it. Actually, is that going to work? Yeah, and then do that at the end of the line. So hit you end the end button,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then delete. Yep, end delete. End delete. Just let's turn this all into a single line. Yeah. Validate. Right. Okay. It was just the formatting that was causing that problem. So can we paste the stuff back into the search? You'll need to put double quotes in before you do that. Don't. You've deleted your D. I think you've got insert on, mate. Turn off insert. Yeah. You need a square bracket.
Oh, here?
Yep. Yep. Okay, cool. So no, before you do that, just delete the square brackets at the end.
And this one?
Yeah. Copy it. Jump down to the bottom. See that curly square bracket at the end? No, at the very end. Yeah. Put a comma. Like in between them.
Oh, in between them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now paste. Cool. That should still work. Or maybe it doesn't. Now just copy the whole thing
Yeah.
and paste it back to validate. Yep. It's valid?
Yeah, it says it's valid.
Cool. And so if we copy that and paste it back in, what's the Python script saying? It's just giving us an error, right?
No JSON object could be decoded.
Hang on, can you just zoom in a little bit?
Oh,
Zoom into the panel.
this one.
Yep. You've got spaces after new name and bedroom at the bottom. And also key.
Might have been from the formatting.
Seek, key and value there. Yeah. Let's see if that works.
It still doesn't
No, it's
work.
still broken. Search data name equals unit and data number is greater than 38, quote. Can you copy that now into your into the chat or Slack, and I'll have a go at running it.
Sure.
Does anyone else have any issues whilst I open this up?
Cookie? No.
Pardon?
Should I stop sharing?
Sure.
Wait, was someone else speaking?
Yeah, it sounded like Tom maybe.
Oh,
No, I've been muted.
Okay.
okay. I'll just quickly. Actually, no. I'll join my other computer. I'll comment later because I have to share screen. Ravinder, did you want to ask first?
Yeah.
Right.
And you can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Just share my screen. Okay. The basic question what happened for me is I managed to get some wardrobe in, so some open rooms. But now when I try to put in a bedroom and I name the class as bed, it doesn't turn into a bedroom.
Sorry, what?
So basically, after I did partition these rooms as wardrobes,
Yeah.
they started working. But then now when I place a bedroom inside a unit, it doesn't turn it into a hotel bedroom.
Is it because the bed doesn't have the class bed on it?
No, I already did that.
Right.
In this, I started moving the doors just to update it. It still doesn't work.
Right. So you've said, where's the CSS that does the bed thing? Search bed in data contains class. Cool. So do you actually have beds showing up in the analysis? Oh, hang on. Hold up. Just go back in there. There's two things that are checking for bed.
Yeah, the other one's the department.
Is bed in contains update new name hotel bedroom, and then the next line, line 5, says bed in data contains class update key department. Oh, you can put the second one as a list item in the first update. So if you copy the dictionary, so the curly bracket down, if you copy that, you can, if you put a comma after the first dictionary, and then paste, that'll do the same thing. Cool, and then you can delete that line. Yep. But that's probably not why it's not working. But try it. Right. So can we just go check what the when it does analysis, does that room actually show up as having a bed in it? So scroll to the right. Scroll to the right. See that listify output? It's empty. Right? Something's gone wrong. So that flat.
And it worked.
Pardon?
So the script you just showed Paolo.
Yeah.
I didn't use that before and it worked. I just added it in.
Yeah, but I can see your flattened tree is also empty. See there's a little orange wire? That means it's empty. No, don't use that panel. Undo. Just undo. Cool. Let's get a new panel. Well, it's empty. I know it's empty.
Yeah.
So let's just go back along the script and work out where it's empty. So the dispatch are we getting any outputs out of that dispatch list A?
No.
Oh, are you sure? Can you plug it in the panel? I can't see it when we do that. Okay, that's completely empty. Keep going back. Let's just see when do we get something that's not empty. Are we getting bounding box? Okay, so it's giving us all of those. I reckon I can see where the problem is. So you've got two lists going into your point in BREP, right? Those two lists are both they're both branched lists. Do you understand how branched lists work?
Not really.
Okay. Is there a reason? So you finished last year's Grasshopper courses?
I did Christina's first Grasshopper course.
Only your first one?
Yeah, only first one.
Okay. Okay, well, in this particular case, the reason is the two grafted lists aren't talking to each other the way that we want. And the way to solve that is we need to flatten the list going into P. The P of the points in BREP. I think. So what that means is the output. Oh, that's still wrong. So can we just quickly double check what's the output of this flattened tree that you've got sandwiched between the two? Yeah. That's flattened. Why is that flattened? Did I flatten that list? Is that something that I did? Can I just check the output of A? That little text component? No, not that. No, not that. That, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not something I would flatten. Just scroll down again. I just want to see the data structure. No, I need you to zoom in a bit. I don't think you need
Andrew,
to. Yeah.
I think you did the flatten to just demonstrate all the possible things that weren't empty in it, and
Right.
then I reconnected my Python script back to the text.
Yeah. So Ravindu,
Yeah.
you need to just connect your A to the Python script. The text to the Python script. Yep.
So what?
No. Up. X into the X. Yep.
Okay.
So that's working now, right?
Yeah.
Look, I need to run you through. I need to send you a video that I recorded last term, explaining how Grasshopper data trees and lists work. I don't want to waste the other students' time re-explaining it because there's already a video. So I will send you a link to that after this class. Okay? Because that's the only reason why that didn't work, is because of because that was plugged in wrong, but that's just a mistake. But the thing to the left, the relationship between a flat list and a grafted list is the real reason why it's not working. And the other one, you've got it down there as well. So see that one there, that P should be flattened. Cool. So I'm still opening up Sean's thingy. There has to be a reason why it's not working. Russell, have you managed to find a computer?
Yeah. I'll share my screen now.
You can?
Yeah, okay. Can you see my Grasshopper screen?
Yep.
Okay, so when I was playing with this, right, I got really curious with this bit. So I tried to change the values, but then I got super lost with this and I had trouble understanding this bit of the coding.
Right. Well, and now it's probably oh no, it's not erroring. Yeah. Well, you want to know
Yeah.
what that's doing?
Yeah, I want to know how this one, because I want to be able to customize my own things over here.
Right.
So I want to learn how to work with this.
Okay. So those two Python scripts in the bruh nunny section.
Sorry.
No problem. It's fine. Those two are giving us the to and from room element ID of the door.
Yeah.
So if you just go to Revit, when you place a door or place a room or whatever, Revit recalculates and works out what the to and from room is. So like the door that goes between the corridor and the unit, it knows that it's connecting the corridor to the unit, for example. Can you just select the actual room, like any room? Yep. So if you go to manage in the top,
Manage.
yeah, there's a button on the right under the inquiry section called IDs of selection. Okay, that annoying number there is actually Revit's identifier for that particular room. Its GUID is 37625090, and that will never change. So that stays consistent along the life of the database. If the room gets deleted, that number will never get reused. Hopefully, it would take a very long time for it to get reused. And everything in Revit, every single thing has an element ID associated with it. So you can select a door, a wall, anything, and it will have a element ID. So that's what, if you go back to the Grasshopper script, if you, just so that we can see after that, see there's like there's those little green icons that have ID on them. It's like it's a hexagon with ID.
These ones.
Yeah, that component there gets an element from Revit based on its element ID. So you tell it the element ID and it will go get that. So what we're doing is we're saying, hey, door, tell us which rooms are connecting to you. Revit responds with an element ID and we use that ID to go get the room. Cool. So that text there is actually a room, but it's just being represented as text.
Oh, right. So this is like the ID engine. This is just giving us the actual name. The elements, right?
So now if we go into the actual Python code, this Python code, you can see, has a whole bunch of imports and various other weird things that you normally don't see in Python. Like, for example, the first thing it does is it has an import CLR library, and then it runs clr.addReference system core, clr add reference runner inside Revit, Revit API, blah, 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 blah. The deal here is those particular libraries, so the Python that we're using in Rhino and the Python that you use in Revit is called IronPython. It's a simplified version of Python 2.7, and it has basically bundled into it a bunch of libraries that the people who made IronPython decided would be like the stuff that people need. You don't need anything more than these libraries. So one of them is the JSON library. But what that means is we wouldn't, if we were just using IronPython and we could only use IronPython's libraries, we would find it very difficult to get access to like other libraries. For example, the Revit API to actually fire that off inside the Python component. And so what this CLR function is doing is it's allowing IronPython to load some of the C library, the C DLLs associated with Revit and also Rhino inside to run that inside the IronPython environment. So we're just, it's basically doing a more complicated version of import. So it's importing those in, and then we have to import them again. So we're then loading all the Rhino script syntax, Rhino inside Grasshopper. From Rhino inside Revit, we're quickly grabbing Revit and convert. We're getting the Revit DB, which I think stands for database library, which is the main API that we would use if we were writing Python for Revit. And then we're also grabbing UI. This is just a base set of imports that I might do just to make sure I've got everything I might need. Then we have to define the Revit document as a variable, which is doc. So that's getting the active Revit doc. And then what I'm doing is I'm basically grabbing a list of phases because Revit has phases. It has it assumes that there might be a demolition phase and you might have various different phases of a project. And unfortunately, if you go to try and get a room from a door, that room is going to exist based on the phase. So the room might not exist in one phase and it might exist in another, and you have to decide which phase you want. And I'm doing that using the n variable. So we're just using an index to pick that. So that's what we're doing here. We're defining a variable called phase. Phase equals phases n, and n is just that integer. And then the from room is using e, and e being the input, which is the door. E dot from room with the with a sort of like list argument phase.
Right.
And then BIP equals integer from room dot id dot toString. So that's just getting the element ID of the from room and outputting that.
Right. This is just pretty much.
That's the same thing, except rather than saying from room, it says to room. That's me being. That's me being. Pardon?
I'll have to look at that more.
And then if the whole thing fails, so if you go back into it, the whole thing fails, which is why it's wrapped in a try and except. So let's say there's an error throughout any of this. So for example, there is no room, so the room doesn't return an element ID, or let's say the phase that we're trying to select doesn't exist. Instead, rather than just completely erroring the Python script, what it does is it makes the output equal none. So it just returns nulls.
Okay. Interesting. I also got a question about your cluster. Can I ask that now?
Yep.
So for this one, right, I'm still trying to get into your cluster.
You're trying to break into my cluster?
Yeah. I spent most of the time doing this.
Don't do that.
So I tried to do Python.
Don't do it.
I couldn't really get it under this. Don't do it.
It's gonna take you. It's gonna take you a million years to break in. If you do it if you do it the easy way.
Is easy way C#?
No. The easy way is that you brute force a password into the password generator.
Oh. Yeah, so that's why I tried to do something else.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do brute force, so Python I couldn't get under it too much, so I tried using C#. And I'm having trouble with trying to do reflection and binding flags.
Yeah, don't. There's no point. There's no point.
But it's fun.
I know it's fun, but do it later. Don't do it for this. It's such a big exercise, and as well, I don't think you're going to. It's not going to result in a benefit to the stuff that we're trying to teach in this class. I shouldn't have said you're welcome to try and break in, because the reason I said that is that I was very confident that none of you could break in.
Oh, I thought it was like bonus marks.
It's not. Well, yeah, it is bonus marks. If you can break in, then yeah, I'll give you bonus marks. But it's like
Oh yeah.
you're not gonna break in.
I know I'm not, but it's like fun because I'm just having trouble with this scoping bit. I copied this from like online or something in a dodgy website.
Yeah. So what you have to do is saved into the Grasshopper file is an encrypted version of the password that I used to password protect that cluster. Right. It's actually a really insecure way of storing passwords. Because even though it's encrypted, it's a two-way encryption. So when I type my password into the cluster, Grasshopper decrypts the thing that's stored in the system, and it compares the decrypted or it encrypts mine, and it compares the two. But the encryption is maybe it is actually one way. I don't know. They might have done it one way.
Because I thought the second it runs, right, the file runs, it's already stored in the memory. So if I could just get under it and then just extract it.
Yeah, they might do it one way. Let me just double check. Grasshopper cluster password SHA. The cluster file actually are encrypted using the hash of the password as a key, but all this does is throw more obstructions away of a cracker. It cannot logically stop them. If you let Grasshopper load the cluster, it will do all the hard work for you, at which point you just have to harvest the document variable. There is something you might have... There is...
Andrew, are you sharing screen? I can't
No,
see
no,
it.
I'm not trying... No.
Okay.
Okay, I think there might be a way of doing it, but they've probably protected it. But it's saving the whole thing as a Grasshopper XML file. So if you go file, save document as. See the type.
.geo.
See, you've got Grasshopper XML.
Yeah.
Save that. Save. Now let's open that file up in a text editor.
How do I do that? Text editor.
Yeah, any text editor like Sublime or Notepad or whatever.
.xml.
What password did I end up using? Let's have a look.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay. So this is an XML version of the Grasshopper script instead of binary.
Yeah.
Now if you search, like I can let me just confirm. One of the things that's in this. Like if you just search for Andrew.Butler, you probably won't be able to find it. Dot.
Oh.
Yeah. So the Python that I've written in has been probably encrypted in this XML as well because it's password protected.
Okay. But it's in here.
Well, if you hang on, yeah, let's search. It would be under search for CSS.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that if you scroll to the left, just scroll to the left.
Scroll to the left.
Yeah, we're only seeing a portion of the code.
I don't understand.
You are currently, you're a few characters right you need to scroll to the left. There's a bar at the bottom of your screen. Yes.
Oh, right. I see.
Cool.
Yeah.
This looks like it is the cluster. You can see there is a name for a variable called CSS, and if we scroll down, you might find data. Yeah, there we go. The name for the next one is data. There on line 184.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you keep scrolling down, keep going. Keep going. Yep, that's it. This thing.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's yours. Never mind.
This one's the one I wrote.
Yep. Yeah, so there's a complicated relationship here and somewhere in this document is the encrypted script that I've given you.
Okay. So I just have to find out what kind of encryption it is and decrypt it. And match it.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could technically. You could technically do that. There's probably somewhere in here a hash key that's been saved for the password, and then you would have to use a decryption method, and the decryption method is something like it's an actual function that's been built into Grasshopper. So it's not, you're not going to be able to just go and get a decrypted, decrypt this. You're going to have to know how, the actual method of decryption and etc.
Right.
So it's tricky.
But sounds fun.
Right.
Okay.
It's probably, the thing is, if I'd used a password that wasn't so strong, you could probably brute force your way in. But my password's, I'm just warning you now, it's a heavy password.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
That's fine. This will keep me up at night. This will make me
Don't. It's not worth it.
Okay.
Try and solve other problems.
Alright.
So Sean, I've got your CSS in my code. I will share my screen now. So this is your CSS, right?
Yep.
I can't, this isn't erroring for me. This is the script that I gave you before, and it's not failing.
Oh.
So I'm going to do this. Now at least, Russell, you know how many characters are in the password.
Yay.
So that's a nice variable to know. And then you're going to have to convince Sean to give you this. Sean, the only reason I'm giving this to you is so that you can copy that component over, just to work out if it's that's the reason why it's erroring.
Sure. We're also using the component that you gave us as well.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm a bit confused as to what's going on. What is going on? Okay, it's in there. Should be in there. Oh, that's why. Sean. Message. Okay. So you guys have it was meant to be due today, but I reckon, shall we say due by Sunday? just to let people iron stuff out?
Yeah, please. I'm like definitely on the way,
Cool.
but it took me like I'm now like onto the third viewing of week 2, just getting all the tidbits
Okay.
you put in because it's just a lot to learn, but like learning heaps and heaps. It's
Yep.
just taking time.
Okay, now shall we? But we're going to start assignment 2 today. And the way, huh?
I have one question because I'm trying to do something. I'm trying to add floors via the CSS, but it's
Floors?
bugging out right now.
Like
yeah.
floor slabs?
No, just like floors in general, like the architecture floors that
Like a carpet.
Yeah, I
Right.
guess so.
Yeah,
But it's bugging out right now. Can I just share my screen real quick?
you can.
Hold up, so need you to stop. No, we'll do the screen.
This is cool, by the way, guys. I like what you've been doing already.
Yeah, so I think I have like the office space. I have I can change the door signage and that
Yep.
kind of stuff.
Cool.
But I'm trying to add floors, and at the moment I have it done. But when I turn this on,
Don't turn it on. Yeah.
it does work. It actually goes all the way down to the bottom
Yeah.
to ground floor, but it has a height offset of I think 3,000 something. I need to just
So go back to your Grasshopper script.
yes.
So let's look at the inputs for add floor. What are they? What are the ones that you need?
For add floor, so
Yeah.
you need the boundary, type, level, and structural. So I already have the boundary. I
Yeah.
just
So
did the element geometry.
what I've noticed is when it doesn't matter if you pick a level
Yeah.
for a floor, all it's doing is it's assigning the floor a level, but it doesn't necessarily assign it a geometry.
Oh, so it doesn't assign the elevation at all. It just like
Yeah. So what you need to do is you need to make sure your curves, and you can do this right now. So
Yep.
see the elevation that you've picked up out of that.
Yep.
If you generate a plane with that,
So should I just move like my curve, my like join curve up to here?
well, I would project it.
Project. Okay, so just project.
The fourth one.
This one.
Yeah.
And then just do.
Well, you need to plug that into a point.
A point. Okay. So that would be.
Also, you've got a dangerous empty branch there.
This one? Yeah, I think I haven't changed the. Because I started changing them all to. Yeah, I still have it on null. So I should just change it to none.
Sure.
Is it still.
Because nulls aren't empty. Sorry, when you filter them out, the thing is, okay, that's not the problem. The problem is the output out of the dispatch with the B. The go right.
Right, yep.
That one. It's giving you an empty branch, and the branch is then giving you still an empty branch. It's always going to be empty.
Okay.
So you can use the clean tree component to remove empty branches.
Just.
Yep. It goes into T.
The bottom. Okay.
Now it's not going to do it automatically. You have to set the E input, so the empty branch input to true.
Okay.
And that's going to get rid of the empty branches. So if you plug that now into your now we want to create a point or a point with the elevation.
Okay.
So the elevation is a Z height.
Yep.
So we construct.
Construct. Point.
Yep.
And just do the elevation of Z.
Yeah. Plug that into the P.
P. And
Like
then just.
by default, Grasshopper turns points into XY planes.
Okay.
So now we can take the curves that you've got and project them onto that plane. And then we can use those curves instead of the. Yep. And now are your floors in the right spot?
Let's see. Yes. Okay, cool. That's the only question I really had.
Cool.
Thank you.
That's just. I've just you would assume that it would draw the floor like
Yeah,
on
I
the
was-
level, but it's using it's using like the actual 3D geometry of the curve to work out where the floor goes. So,
All right. And just another question: what are like the things that you expect for assignment one? Like like what we should do with the CSS. So like we already have the rooms. I have the doors. What other things would you like recommend to do or try out with the CSS?
so you're putting floors in, right?
So I've done the floors and the door parameters.
So are you changing the finish of the floor?
No. I just laid out a floor in Revit and then I'm just copying it to the second one because I don't think I can change the material of the floor.
I think you can.
Can I?
Yeah, the easy way of doing it is going and making a new floor type. And then by choosing a new floor type, as in making a new one, you can assign a material to that floor type.
Okay.
And then you can specify the type of floor that is going into the room.
Okay.
That's one way of doing it.
Okay.
Look, most of the stuff you guys are doing is fine. It's more like if you want to layer more complexity onto how a room is named, rather than just focusing on a different parameter. That's also fine.
All right, cool. Thank you for that.
Cool. Assignment 2 requires that we split the class up into groups because it is a group. It's a pseudo group assignment. And I'm just it's a bit hard to tell at the moment, but I'm assuming the 2 people, there's only 1 person now not here. Do we know if Jason's still doing the class? Do you guys know?
I don't think so, but yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, cool. So that means we've got Tom, Sean, Russell, Ravindu, Paolo, Owen, Janlin Fu, Jeffrey and Emilio. 1, 2, 3. That should be 9. Okay. So in the past, I've done this class in groups of 3, and I thought that we were only going to have 6 people this term. So I was thinking about doing it as one mega assignment. But I think what we will do is we will go back to 3. I don't think 9 is a good number for this. So I need you guys to jump into groups of 3. Just to explain, the only part of this that's actually marked as a group assignment is the collaborative work document that is produced. And for this particular assignment, and then for the next assignment, it's the presentation. So there hopefully won't be a single fight happening within these groups, and there's a safety net. Like if you've got group members dropping out of the class, or things happening, like for example family tragedy or whatever, that shouldn't get in the way of your group being able to do their job. So everyone's marked individually except for those sort of like minor little things. So I'm guessing you guys already know which groups you want to be in that last minute of me talking, or at least you know that you're not in a group, so you're probably in the last group. If I just go alphabetically, Emilio, do you have a good idea of who your group might be?
Yeah, sure. I think it's Paolo and Tom. Tom has already messaged both of us. He was like, all right, sure.
Cool. So then, Owen, would you have a good idea of who your group would be? Pardon?
I'm messaging Russell now.
Russell, do you have a good idea of who your group would be? And now,
Sure. I'll go with Owen. Ravindu, do you want to come with us?
Cool, done. And so that leaves Jeffrey, Janlun, and Sean, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Is that everyone happy with that?
Yes.
Ooh.
Okay, cool. So the idea is that each of you will be designing a different aspect of a building, and the three that I've picked out are the designing of a roof, the designing of a facade, and the designing of a floor plate. And I have listed them out in from the most simple to the most complicated. So I believe roof design is probably going to be a fairly simple exercise. The facade can get a bit more complicated, as you guys have already sort of discovered last term. And a floor plate can be a mega challenge. It can be very, very complicated. So each of you will be designing one of those three things, and it is up to you who does that. You guys can argue with each other on who's doing what. But the building that you are designing a floor plate, facade, and roof for, you will not see until the end of the assignment. Does that make sense?
Sorry, what was that last point?
You won't be seeing the conditions of your building until you submit.
Could you extend that
Yep,
a little bit?
I will.
So there'll be, obviously our code will be run in a context, and you will give us a
Yep.
context
Yep. So
on the day.
I'm going to be giving you guys basically random inputs throughout the term so that you guys can test your code on those inputs. But the idea is that your code is going to generate a building based on a wide variety of inputs. So an example is the building could be a rectangle. It could be L-shaped. It could be U-shaped or C-shaped, and it could be T-shaped. That's already one condition that's going to happen with all the various conditions. Cool. It could be multiple stories, as in it is going to be multiple stories, but those multiple stories will change. Its orientation will change. So, if north is that way, then it could be any angle. And depending on what you guys would like to do, we can also say that there is going to be context around your building. So that context could be, surrounding towers that are overshadowing your building, or we could also say that there is landmarks nearby that your building might want to have access to views for. Like, there are more important aspects and views for this building. And what I've found is those few inputs can end up creating some very, very complicated scripts. Does that help clarify your question, Tom?
Yep.
Cool. So this is a really interesting exercise, because not only does this require us to have an agreement, like as in myself and you, to have an agreement of how information is going to be passed to you, which we will do next week. But it also requires your group to talk to each other about how things are going to work. So, for example, I've never seen a building that doesn't have the facade relate to the floor plan, and I've never seen a building have a roof not respond to the structure of that floor plan or the elements of the facade. So you guys are going to need to basically create a script together in 3 parts and potentially more, and have those scripts talking to each other to be able to produce your outcome. Cool?
Yep.
Okay, that's assignment 1. That's assignment 2. Assignment 3 is an evolution of assignment 2, which I quite regularly do, where the output of the group member is then handed to another group member to analyze. So whoever is generating a floor plan, the floor plan data is passed to the roof person, and the roof person has to write a script that does an analysis relevant to floor plans doing another Grasshopper script. The roof is passed to the facade, and the facade is passed to the floor plan person. But that's happening in assignment 3. But just be considerate that whatever you are doing now, it's going to affect someone else in assignment 3. And this is where things get interesting. So if your group member somehow drops out, something bad happens, then what we can do is we can make an arrangement with another group for that group member to pass you their output for you to do the analysis. So there shouldn't be any effect, any negative effects from group work from this. Cool. So the major factor in this is that we have to write scripts that respond to quite a lot of different styles of geometry input and whatnot. For example, like I mentioned before, how do you get, we can have a rectangle, we can have an L shape, we can have a T, we can have a C. All of these types of all of these shapes have to have a different response to them, that in some way. So we're going to do a little bit of coding and explanation on what needs to happen for that to work. Is everyone cool with this? I can just start coding. Yeah, okay. So I know like this seems like it's going to be a really challenging term, but we'll get there. Okay. Most of this term now is going to be just us coding together, and it's more about you coming to class and being like, okay, I'm trying to solve this problem, and us resolving it, rather than me sort of hitting you with new concepts every week. But I've got to hit you with a few, and one of them is actually getting computers to recognize shapes, not using AI. So here we've got 4 shapes, and we'll just work on 2. Let's simplify this a little bit. So when we're not using any sort of crazy things like AI or fuzzy logic or anything like that, these 2 shapes here, we need to be able to analyze them to say, hey, that is a rectangle, and hey, that is an L. So
Andrew, are you sharing screen?
I am sharing screen. You cannot see it because I am not sharing my screen. Fortunately, the recording has that, so...
Alright.
Okay, I am sharing my screen now. You can see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got 2 shapes. We've got a rectangle and an L. I just want to put to you guys what, like, if you just think in the most basic geometric sense, what are some ways that we could analyze these shapes to be able to decide whether or not one is a like we've got these two and we somehow teach the computer.
Edges and points.
Pardon?
Edges and points.
Yep. So you're heading in the right direction. So what are you suggesting that you could?
Something with 4 edges and parallel lines would always be a rectangle.
Right.
Something with more edges and parallel lines would be either a C or an L, but it's not really descriptive enough.
Right. Okay. So there's like how many edges does this particular shape have?
4.
Right. And how many does the L?
It has, is it 6 or 7? 6.
Yep.
6.
This guy's 8.
And the C is 8 again.
Right.
Is it? Yeah.
Right. And so we run into a bit of a problem, right?
Yeah.
Andrew,
Yeah.
could you do angles potentially?
Yes. So what do you mean?
So, well, obviously with like the rectangle here, we know that it can add up to however much. I'm not thinking right now. But then if it's like for the L.
No, go on. How much does a rectangle's angles add up to?
90 plus 90 plus 90 plus 90.
Yeah.
I can't.
The whole
I'm so
hole.
down to drain.
360 degrees.
360.
Yeah. My maths is right down the drain right now.
Yeah.
And then, so I guess with the L1, we can calculate if it. I'm guessing that if it's got enough 90 degrees, and let's say like at the point where it turns there, that we can calculate it's an L.
You're right.
Right.
You're right. So I can add, like, if I add up all the angles of the rectangle, and I compare that to adding up all the angles in the L, they won't add up the same. The L, like if you look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as 5. Oh, sorry, no, I'm wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and -1 equals 4, right?
Yep.
Like that's a -1.
Well, it's not really a -1 in my head until you kind of like create some system for like interior
Sure.
and exterior.
So
angles,
so this is where we're getting. You're right. So let's say that's not -1. Let's say that's 3. Right. If this is 1 and this is 2, then that's 3. So yeah, these.
Oh, you're like really bringing it down.
Yeah,
like simplifying
these two don't equate to each other, and you're right, they would be different. But this one would give you the same result. They would end up with the same number. There's the same number of 90 degrees, and there's the same number of 270.
How about center points?
Huh?
Center points. If you can draw diagonals across the center points.
Yes.
It's just inventing more data to analyze compared to what we already have.
What if we somehow like loop the
It's
information?
just 2 lines and a dot.
Your only issue is if your C looks like this, though.
Or if there's like not straight angles.
So, we are heading in the right direction though, and Tom did mention it as I was interrogating his idea. Do you remember?
Do you want me to say it?
Yeah.
Yeah, interior versus exterior angles and how you would score them.
Yep. So another way of calling them that I like the more technical term. We have a convex angle, and we have a concave angle. So if we look at this, if we just go from each corner and measure what each of those corners are, and we'll say concave equals V, and convex, oh no, that's not going to work, equals X. E versus X. Cave versus X. Or are you're okay with me calling it V? V, E versus EX. Yeah? This is why I don't like teaching online.
Yeah, sure. VX, yeah, that's fine.
Cool. So if we go through a rectangle, the rectangle is convex, 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 convex. Yeah? And an L, if we just started in that top corner, is convex, 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 concave, convex, convex. Jesus, looking like I'm
Andrew,
making...
are you going to try to do some text matching or something?
Pretty much, yep. That's exactly what we're going to do.
Okay.
Should there be like a rule where we have to always start from the same corner?
No, we can solve that.
Okay.
But I'm loving how you guys are thinking. You guys have managed to jump ahead like an hour. 30 minutes. We've only got 45 minutes to do this though. So on and so forth. So not to get too crazy, rather than calling these convex and concave, let's call them true and false. Okay? So we'll say convex is falses, and convexes are true. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And look, the C and the T will end up being different. They'll be, I'll just start in this top left corner. So convex, convex, concave, concave, convex, 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 convex. Oops. I was hitting enter instead of space. And I'll start in this top corner here. So convex, space. Convex, convex, concave, convex, convex, concave, convex, convex. And there we have a unique way of being able to determine roughly a shape. Like we can say, okay, these have to be 90 degrees to work, or we can say they have to be rough. But as long as, you know, as long as we've got a concave curve there, we end up getting a convex relationship. Cool? So these patterns are the patterns that we want to look for. We want to look for rectangle, L, C, and T. Let's do it phonetically. So rectangle, an L, a C, and a T. So what we need to do is we need to measure those angles to work out what they are. And we just have to do it, you know, from wherever the curve starts to do that. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to grab a curve. So we'll just let's use this L. Use the L. Something that, so at least it gives us one thing that's wrong. Not wrong, concave. If I break that particular L up, I'm going to give you bifocals as well. If we break that up, explode it, and we grab the tangent of the curve, and the tangent can be basically grabbed anywhere with evaluate curve. That tangent, that vector, is something that we can use to measure with another vector. And so there's this component here, angle. If you give it two vectors, it'll measure the angle between them. It'll measure both the angle and what is called the reflex, which is the opposite side of that angle. It also can take a plane, and I'll explain why we want the plane in a moment. So if I what I want to do is I want to compare the angle of this curve versus the angle of this one. And so, you know, the tangent is going to be that direction versus this one. So it doesn't matter where the actual vector is located. As long as we've got two vectors that are pointing the right ways, we should be able to get that angle. But we just have to make sure that that is being measured, you know, one as index 0 versus index 1 versus index 2, and so on and so forth. So just to throw it to you guys, a softball question: what can I do to one of these lists so that what can I do to this list so that we can compare this list with the next one along? It's a really easy question, hopefully.
Are they always going to be in an order where they're next to each other?
Yeah, they always are, because we're exploding a polyline curve.
Then can we just do it with like the positions that they come in terms of like -1 and +1?
Yep, kind of, yeah. So we want to compare line like curve 0 with line like curve 1. So what
Do you mean like the equation to compare them?
No, I mean, what can I do to the list? What can I do to this list so that one...
shift?
Exactly. It's that simple a question. So if we shift it, we just need to make sure that the shift is wrapping, which it does when it's default, and it's going to shift positively in forward 1, which is the right thing to do. I think... Hang on, let me just double check. If we... Oh, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. But if we actually look at this point, the first point is... Yeah, that's right. The first point's this point back here. So if we want our angles to relate in some way to our points, then we probably want that shift to be a -1. So what's actually happening is we're actually comparing these two vectors for this one point, and then those two for that point, and so on and so forth. If we grab those vectors, and I'm actually working on the lines now, not the vectors, so let's use the vectors instead. If we grab those two vectors and measure their angle, we should be getting a fairly positive number here. These are all radians, so let's just quickly put this into a number system that a high school maths grad can understand rather than a science grad. Convert radians to degrees. So we're getting 90 degrees, 90, 78, 47, 58, 90. Do any of them look obtuse?
No.
No. Do I need to explain obtuse?
No.
Cool.
I mean, I don't know.
Everyone knows?
I know.
Cool. Maybe I'll just do it really quickly. This is an acute angle. It's sharp. This is an obtuse angle. It's blunt. The threshold for obtuse and acute is 90 degrees. But all of these are coming out. But we're not even getting. For us to be able to get a obtuse angle through, like here. What am I trying to say? What we're trying to do is we're trying to get this system to measure this angle, not this one. And at the moment, it's giving us. That's not even 90 degrees, but it's giving us something that's wrong. We're not going to be able to measure this and be able to get it to output something that's good. The reason is, if you just plug two vectors into the angle component, what will happen is the system will assume the plane that you want to measure is based on those two angles. So you will always end up with your initial angle being like an acute angle, something, I don't know what's the right word. It won't be a reflex angle. So we need to make sure that we use a XY plane here, because it will then return your funky concave angle in that response. And that also means that this script will only work if the curves are being drawn on the XY plane, or at least an offset of that XY plane. Does that make sense?
Can you correct me if I'm wrong, but so you're saying is without the plane, right? It only takes the last two ones, and so every time it shifts, the vector changes, so it doesn't know where the origin is. Let me
show you. It does know where the origin is. What it's doing is it's building its own plane to do the measurement. I'm gonna do this. I keep looking at myself, and if I put myself down here, then at least I'll be looking near the camera when I talk to you guys. If you don't have a plane in there, if you use the default, it constructs a plane from these two. So I'm going to just build a plane from those two. So you can see that red line there. The red line is the x direction of each of these planes.
Right.
And then the green one basically gives you an idea of the direction of the plane. So if we look at all of these concave plane relationships, the green vector of the plane, the y vector, is always pointing outwards. That's outwards, that's outwards, that's outwards, outwards, outwards. But look, this one is pointing inwards. And it's because that's just the natural direction that if you were to take just two vectors, it doesn't matter. Like, think about the way that Grasshopper's thinking about these two vectors is as if it doesn't know that it's in a closed curve. It just knows that there's two vectors. Let's just measure the angle between them. And the most sensible plane to construct from that is this. So if you... And that plane is actually flipped. So you can see... like if you actually grab your hand and you point your hand, your thumb in the direction of the red line and your index finger in the direction of the green, if you try and do the same, so with this one here, if I try and point my thumb in the direction of the red line and my index in the direction of the green, I actually have to flip my hand over to be able to do that. So that plane is flipped. And that's why the angle is being measured in a way that we don't want.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now.
Cool. So if we say, hey, don't change the plane, use a non-flipped plane, use the XY plane, we get an angle relationship that now goes beyond 180 degrees, and that can be our cutoff point, right? So if x is larger than 180, we're going to get a true value. And so if we just quickly turn that into an integer, and we join that, we treat the integer actually as a piece of text, then we get a nice little like space syntax of the concave convex relationship of the polyline of 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0. And if we go quickly jump over here, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0. So that very, very quickly could tell us that this is an L. But Paolo mentioned something earlier that is going to become a problem, right? Do you remember what you said, Paolo?
What, with the angles, is it? Or...
I mean, the starting point.
Oh, starting point, yeah, sorry.
Exactly, the starting point. So check this out. This guy is not the same, right? Its starting point is different. So, what could be a way that we could make it so that starting point doesn't matter?
You mean in Grasshopper or Python?
In Grasshopper.
Oh.
But you can respond in Python, we can just make it with Grasshopper.
I'm not sure, but isn't there like a way to look at strings and compare the contents? So even if it shifts or something, it can still match like a pattern.
Yeah, yep. And there's a really simple way of doing it. Really, really simple.
Is that like a function itself?
No, I want you to forget functions. Let's think about how to do it. Like, let's use, because all functions are using really simple concepts and just combining them. So like if I said to you, like, how do you guys recognize that these two could be the same?
Actually, Andrew.
Yeah.
So do you think you can just find the length of the list, and then loop through it and changing the index? So you start on, let's say, 0 and you match it through, and then you start on 1 and then you match it through.
Can you try and rephrase that?
So let's say over here you got 6 digits, right?
Yeah.
So 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. What if, let's say, okay, I find the length of those digits, so I know there's 6 individual index within that string, and then I start to loop through it to compare it with what I have, and then each time it loops, what happens is it starts on a different index. So as long as one of these matches up, it works.
Yep. What you're describing is exactly what we need to do. That's exactly it. As long as when you iterate through, as you step along, as you step onto index 1, the original index goes to the end, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. Now there is a way to cheat that system in Grasshopper. The way to do that is so what we're going to do, we're going to use regex, only because I love regex and it's just such a nice little versatile little thing. I think I'm probably still the only person who's taught you about regex, right? Since last term.
Yeah, we did a bit.
You did it with me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, look, with regex, we can actually just get it to return a true as long as this pattern is recognized, right? So as long as there's a 1 in that string, it returns a true. So as long as there's a 0, 1 in that string, or a 0, 1, 0 in this string, it returns true. The problem is going to be when you go beyond the rules, even though it just the only thing it can't do is it can't recognize wrapping. So, and this is a really, really, really cheaty way of doing this, because the way that Russell described is probably the right way of doing it. But the way that we can do it with Grasshopper, because, you know, if you actually open up any code, it's probably going to have cheat code in there. This shouldn't be the way we're doing it, but it works, so it's working. We can use repeat data. If we repeat the data 3 times, what that does, and let me just demonstrate. what that does is it's actually creating a pseudo loop. So there in the middle of this somewhere is the original that we've done, but it's creating enough data to the left and right of that original data set that would infer that there is a loop somewhere in there, right? Do you guys see what I'm talking about?
Repeat that again.
So by repeating a pattern 3 times, you're in effect creating like a pseudo looping like static version of that pattern. Do you see, like, there it is, 0 0 1 0 0 0, and there should be 1 2 3 4 5, so there should be 5 zeros between the ones, so 1 2 3 4 5. You can see that?
Yep.
So what that means is, now this one was returning false, but if I test that now on my pseudo looping, it returns true.
So he's like matching it up basically.
Yeah, you're basically creating an extension of the looping so that you can, it doesn't matter which point you start at. So now, if we use the sort of like standard means of generating a lookup table in Grasshopper, so that is splitting a list by a delimiter, and the delimiter in this case is a comma. Getting a list item for all the outcomes and getting like the I plus. So we've got rectangle, L, C, and T, and we've got 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 0 0, so on and so forth for the lookups. And we can then, now this is gonna fail. I'm just warning you now, it's going to fail, but we're going to work out why, and we're going to solve it. So if I plug this guy in to our pattern recognition, we end up getting a true false test versus the rectangle, the L, the C, and the T. So rectangle is returning true, L is returning true, C is returning false, and T is returning false. So why is this returning true for a rectangle when it should only be returning true for the L?
It just happens to match one of the thing that you have.
Yeah. So can you see what's the pattern that we had for a rectangle? It's just 4 zeros. And look, if you loop the L, you will eventually get you can get a rectangle, 0 0 0 0. There is a rectangle using this syntax hiding in an L. Yeah? So there's one extra layer that we have to add on, and we were talking about that very early on. I think it was the first suggestion that you guys made. We can measure another thing about the shape. If a rectangle can hide, so 1 2 3 4 convex shapes in a L, what's one major thing that is also different between a rectangle and an L?
The amount of sides.
Yeah. So if I go measure the amount of sides, and one way that or corners, and one way we can do that is we can just say, we can get the, where is it? Text length. So we can just measure, how many, before we do the repeat. So there's six values in our pattern here, and we can also do a text length on our patterns to match to. So we have 4, 6, 8, and 8. if we compare those two, x equals y, and I'm going to hit up either Sean or Ravindu. Hey guys, we're getting true, true, false, false, and we're getting false, true, false, false. I want to combine these two lists together to make sure that I only end up with one true. And that true should be relating back to the L. So index 1. What logical operator should I be combining? Should I be using to combine those two to get a true for 1 and a false for index 0?
Would you try to match those two lists and like, because the rest of them are false for the second one?
Yeah, but there's
only the first one is true.
Yeah, we want to use a logical operator. Do you know what logical operators are?
Could you use like...
Sorry, say that, Ravindu?
Is it going to be or?
It is not going to be or. But Ravindu's right in that that's what I'm asking. I'm asking, do we use an and or do we use an or? So if I used an or, the result that I get is not correct, right? So there can only be one logical answer, right?
Yeah.
So do you guys understand why it's and?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Because only the first one is true and true.
Only index 1 is true and true. Don't use the word first. First refers to index 0.
Oh yeah, okay.
Cool. So look, we don't have to do this if we're only measuring the number of sides. But the thing is, we do have to do that for measuring the number of sides when we get to more complex shapes like C and T, because C and T have the same number of sides, but they are different shapes. So this particular script now if I just quickly use a dispatch here and dispatch the outcome, so this is an L. If we go pick another curve and we pick a C from that, we're getting nothing. And the reason we're getting nothing is, I will look into that. Everything's false. Have I written my C combinations wrong? Let's try it again. Top corner. Convex, convex, concave, concave, convex, 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 convex. What's this giving me? It's measuring it the other way. That's one other thing I need to mention to you guys. Okay, that is coming out as a C now, right? CC. And if I pick T, it's also wrong. So that's coming out as a T. And if I pick a rectangle, that's also wrong. Rectangle, okay, cool. So we should be able to pick any shape now. That's an L, that's a T, that is a C, that is an L. Can you see what's happening here, right? So once you have a script, like if you have a script that you actually need to use to work out, we're going to decide on what we're going to do with this. We have to decide to do a different thing with an L or a different thing with a T. Then you've now effectively got a means of measuring this. There are some major limitations here though. Number one, it assumes anything that looks like even remotely like that is an L. So that's still giving us an L. And as well, it doesn't like this. Like, that breaks. So we need a fairly simple set of geometry that goes in here. Fortunately, we can use a component like simplify curve so that it'll get rid of any sort of like duplicates. But if you've got a shape like this, one that we haven't actually even considered measuring, like you actually have to have a predefined list of shapes to work with for this script to work, because yeah, that's coming out as nothing. And then the last thing is, and this is probably the thing that's going to affect everybody one day in their computational design life. Did you guys see what I did to fix these up that weren't working? Did any of you see what I did?
Could you repeat that question?
So this wasn't working before. I'm gonna do the thing again. So if I measure this, the result comes out as nothing, right? It can't tell what it is. And if we go look at what its actual syntax is, what are we getting as a result? What did we decide our 0 and our 1s to be?
0 being concave, 1 being convex, or was it the other way around?
Yeah, so our ones were going to be, look at our rectangle. A rectangle doesn't have a single concave curve in it. It's all zeros, right? But here, this thing is only meant to have 2 concaves, and instead it's got 2 zeros.
Is it because of the vectors are all flipped?
Yes. Yeah, so the direction of the way that has been measured, it's flipped. This thing is either, it's drawn in the wrong direction. So things should be drawn anti-clockwise, but in this case I think I've written this script as if it's meant to be clockwise, but that's fine. But we have to add something to this script to make it we have to almost like wash the geometry prior to it going into this script and wash it to become clockwise or anti-clockwise. And we're not going to have enough time to do that today, but we will have enough time to do it next week. So after you've submitted today's, assignment 1 to Moodle, my challenge to you is have a think about how you might work out whether or not something is clockwise or anti-clockwise. If you are thinking about that, just consider that you might have to have a shape that does this to work out if it's clockwise or anti-clockwise. Because a shape like this is not going to, you're going to run into problems whichever way you do come up with this. And then also consider potentially just searching Google for the solution, because it will tell you there is a solution out there using maths. Cool? So this week, other than doing that in your assignment, I kind of want you guys to have a good idea of who's going to be doing what for the rest of the term. So decide between your team who's getting what part of the building, and next week we can start discussing how the information is going to get passed to everyone. Hopefully next week will be in person as well. I doubt it, but we'll see. Does anyone have any questions before we finish? Am I by myself?
Andrew, do you think you can list out the responsibility of each sections?
There is a person who's going to design a floor plan. So, and we've done quite a lot of this work now, so it should be a lot easier for you guys to do this. But it's someone's going to decide where the lift core goes and where the fire stair goes, and the group should also decide whether or not they're doing a residential building or a commercial building. And so if they're doing a residential one, then they're going to lay out where the apartments are. And if it is residential, we could actually just make it a hotel. And so that person can also use CSS to style that stuff based on relationships and all of those types of things. Another person is going to be designing every facade. So that is, there's not a single face of the building that is not going to have some kind of facade on it. And then someone is going to be designing the roof. And the roof is important because it's usually where the most expensive apartment or office floor plate is. So it might have skylights, it's going to have structure. I'm expecting to see potentially Karumba analysis done on the roof for the third assignment. So the person designing the roof has to design it in a way that feeds into Karumba. So there's those three things.
The roof.
The roof, yep. Roofs also usually have services on them, so we have to work out where air conditioning units or lift overruns go, and so that stuff needs to be fed in from the person doing the floor plan. They could have it could be inhabitable, so they could have a roof garden.
Oh, so like trying to design a penthouse with the person who's doing like the floor plans for the top floor. Every aspect of
someone is going to set out a grid, and that person is probably going to be the person doing the floor plans, right? The grid is going to affect the rest of the building. So the roof is probably going to have to follow the grid to set out their structure. So there's going to be an exercise where you guys have to work out what information is going to be produced by each person and who's going to feed information in and out from that. Because there might be only a specific area that you can have skylights, for example, in the roof, and that might then force the person doing the floor plans for the penthouse to rearrange the apartment, for example.
Okay, thank you.
And then that gets even more complicated as people need to feed information to each other in assignment 3 to do the analysis. And so throughout the assignment, I'm going to issue you different buildings floor plans so that you can test your script, just to make sure it's working for all the different types of inputs that you might get. But in the final week, when I do give you like the final floor plates, those are going to be the first times you guys see those floor plates. And hopefully your scripts will just run.
So is it like a pass or a fail for assignment 3?
No?
Okay.
We'll talk about assignment 3 later.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah.
I know this seems like it's going to be really difficult, because it is going to be really difficult. People don't do this. This is not an exercise that's trying to replicate what happens in the industry. It's almost like an exercise trying to replicate what might happen in an AI design, where each of you are almost like little agents in the AI. But I think it's a really good exercise in understanding, having data flowing from one person to another, having data flowing from one script to another, agreeing on data standards between each person. We can agree that CSS is a good data standard, but you guys are going to have to agree with each other on how you want the information coming in. Is it going to be a mesh? Is it going to be a BREP? How do you represent a room, or do you bundle everything together as a JSON? That's the important part of this being a group assignment. but then you're going to get a building out of this as well. Do you use Revit as the centralized version of the model to bring everything together, or are you going to just only use Grasshopper data, inputs and outputs, blah 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 blah? Cool.
Cool.
Okay. I will see you guys next week. Stay safe. Don't get COVID, especially you, Paolo.
Why me?
Because you like live in the hotspot, don't you? And the same to you, Tom.
Not really.
Okay.
I'm like Bayside's pretty alright, but yeah, I think Mascot Station had some cases. Or like had what's it called? Yeah, it was a hotspot there.
Cool. See you guys.
Alright. Thanks.